Hello and welcome back to the Ecommerce Braintrust podcast. I'm your host, Kiri Masters, Head of Retail Strategy at Acadia. And today I'm joined by a special guest, Bruce Smith, who is the founder and CEO of Hydrow, the leading at-home connected rower that brings the on-water experience of rowing straight to your home. A lifelong entrepreneur, rower, and coach, Bruce has dedicated his career to helping others experience the power of the sport at all levels. Bruce founded Hydrow to capture the unique experience of on-water rowing and make it universally accessible, helping people everywhere feel more connected to one another and live healthier lives on a daily basis. Welcome to the show, Bruce.
Very nice to be here. Thank you for the lovely introduction. We should get you to do all of our readings. It's great.
Thank you. Well, I'd love to hear, we're going to get into your entrepreneurial story, more about Hydrow's retail strategy. We've got a lot of nerds listening to the show who want to hear about that. But I'd love to first just start with, how did you first fall in love with rowing?
It was, rowing's like a little bit odd because when I started rowing in college, which is a few years ago now, it was not an accessible sport. So the only way to really learn how to row is like if you went to college or prep school in New England or England or somewhere like that, Australia, and there weren't learn to row programs. It was all this like college based thing, and it's kind of weird because it used to be the most popular sport. Like literally, it was like football. It was like 80 or 90,000 people would go watch a rowing race in 1915, in New York City, and bet on it and cheer and have a great time on Sunday afternoon. So when I started, it was this really obscure little thing, and I think that's what I enjoyed about it. It was like hard to get to, and there's something about the rhythm of moving with other human beings and the combination of being outside on the water. So you're in this rowing shell, and rowing shells are called shells for a reason. It's like the skin of the boat is less than a quarter inch thick, and so you're basically sitting like in this very like fragile thing that connects you very directly to the water, and you're moving with other people, and you're moving your whole body. You're like, it's a full body exercise. So it was that combination of water and doing this cool thing with other people, and it was very, very addictive. And once I started, I tried to stop a few times. I tried to quit, and it kept pulling me back in. I just couldn't. I can't get out. Here I am, 30 years later, still stuck in this thing.
Wow, that's great. And it is interesting to hear about that, the societal or cultural significance of rowing as like an elite kind of sport for the upper echelons. And I've recently gotten into sailboats,
Yes,
and
similar.
that's got kind of a similar vibe. Although like going and joining a racing team at your local lake, like no, they'd love to have you. So
Right.
it
Yeah.
has an unfair reputation, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Winklevoss twins are in fact early investors in Hydrow, and they kind of like Harvard, like Harvard,
Yes.
like very, very successful, and they kind of epitomize that creamy center of privilege, like white male privilege. But the flip side is that I spent 10 years working at a place called Community Rowing here in Boston, and that was it's a rowing club, but it was a nonprofit, and it was dedicated and exclusively to making rowing genuinely accessible to everybody. So it was kind of that experience that led me to Hydrow, because we're not for rowers, we are for non-rowers, and that's kind of it. I think people sometimes lose that perspective, because it is like you're invited into this world that is was exclusive but is now genuinely accessible. So just, you can get on your Hydrow anywhere.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about your time at Community Rowing in Boston, where you were there for 10 years as the executive director. A couple of points I pulled out from my research was that you led Community Rowing to become the largest rowing outreach organization in the world during that time. You tripled operating income of that organization during the Great Financial Crisis, and created several innovative initiatives to transform it during your time there. So I'd love to hear about like what were some of the key ingredients that were necessary for that outcome?
Yeah, it's an amazing place. And first of all, it's really, it was a group effort. I happened to be there during this period, but it was a very, very fun community. The thing with rowing is that there's this preconception that it's really hard to learn how to do it. And the boats are fragile and need to be reserved for people with a lot of skill. And if you are like a young kid, or if you have a physical or mental challenge, that it's not really for you and you're not invited to the party. And so CRI was dedicated to breaking down those barriers and making the Charles River in particular this amazing resource for people, so you could get out in the water and have this amazing experience with other human beings, and it wasn't contingent on how much money you had or where you went to college. Like, you could come from anywhere. And so we started a whole bunch of programs aimed at kids from the Boston public school systems, programs to serve military vets who are coming back from conflicts in Iraq, who may have had invisible injuries and weren't as comfortable in sporting settings as they used to be. Programs for people with all kinds of physical challenges, kids who couldn't participate in regular team sports, and then on the flip side, people who wanted to compete at the very highest level too. So is this really amazing and positive mix of elite athletes training for the World Championships and the Olympics, and kids from down the street in Brighton who had never, they didn't even know there was a boathouse until somebody went and collared them, dragged them down through the door. So it was a very, very fun experience, and we ended up growing. When I started, we would serve like 150 or 200 people a day, sometimes 300, and by the end, we were serving over 1,000 people a day during the summertime, and it was just amazing. You'd see people come into the parking lot and park or walk through the front door, and they didn't have a smile on their face, and almost every single person who got off the water leaving had a big smile on their face.
Yeah.
That was that's what we wanted to deliver to the world with Hydrow. That transformative, give us a few minutes of your day and we guarantee you will feel better. You'll get that Hydrow high.
I love that. So Hydrow is a for lack of a better term, D2C brand that you have called the best workout experience in the world, which is definitely an alluring proposition. And I'd love for you to explain more about how that works. It's not just about the hardware component and the actual device, but a big component is that the workouts allow the user to experience different rivers around the world. So I'd love to hear about how you're building that content first, product led strategy.
Yeah, it really is a product led marketing strategy overall. And I think the challenge with those product led strategies is that you need to get a group of people together. How do you get your first customers through the door? Because they are your chief proponent. And then the experience of the product becomes the main marketing tool. And rowing is kind of it is network effect in a lot of ways, because in order to row, you need a group of people, you need to go out on a boat together. And how do you capture that and deliver it at home? So when you think about exercise, I think everybody is aware now of the different qualities of exercise. Yoga is great for mind-body connection if it's done thoughtfully. Running is hard on your knees, but good for your lungs. If you only do the stationary bike, then you're going to have to do other exercises because it's not addressing different parts of your body. Rowing is the perfect package of physiological interventions for exercise. So it turns on your psoas, it turns on your legs, your arms, your back. The most important thing that it does is it turns on your posterior chain. And people don't know that they have a posterior chain, but those are the muscles that keep you standing upright during the day. And they make it possible for the cavity that holds all of your organs to stay open and clear so your organs can work well. And when you step back in the bigger world, there are not many exercises that work your posterior chain and turn it on. So the physical act of rowing is the best exercise, period. And there's not a lot of controversy about that. CrossFit agrees, Orange Theory agrees, that in the big world, rowing is generally viewed as the best exercise. But then it gets more interesting, because what you really need for exercise is not just intrinsic motivation, like everybody knows they should. You also need really compelling extrinsic motivation. And where do those extrinsic motivators come from? And, we all like to think of ourselves as self disciplined, and we know we should, but the truth is we don't. And so Hydrow is aimed at delivering on a really deep level that kind of human connection and accountability that you get from being a member of a rowing club, but you get it in your home instead. So you're experiencing rhythm and flow with another human being on the screen. There's another key component of health, which is the experience of nature. Like if you're stuck behind a screen all day and you're not experiencing nature, you actively feel less connected and less trusting of the world. And so we deliver that experience too, because we immerse you in a natural environment. So we're not filming in studios, we're actually filming live outside on the water. And so you join that person, so you're experiencing rhythm and nature and water. When you put that package together, I know it's really and I gotta say, somewhat to my surprise, it works. Our NPS is 87. When people, it's a little bit frustrating as a D2C brand. People get their Hydrow, and when it arrives after about 3 or 4 workouts, we get this happens all the time. We get notes saying, "Oh my god, I had no idea." And that's that's kind of a problem, when you're trying to sell something. But the experience of the product really is that compelling because it hits all of those different pieces. It's your whole body, it's your soul, it's social connection, it's experience of nature, all wrapped into one. And it's done very thoughtfully. We have a very thoughtful approach to whole health. And ultimately, we're not a rowing company; we are a whole health company. And the modalities that we'll continue to expand into will always be best in class. We're never going to suggest that you buy a bike or a treadmill because those aren't the best, most efficient exercises. We're always going to sell you the very best and most trustworthy thing in the marketplace. So continuing to build that story and that experience, I think we'll see. George Clooney made a movie about Boys in the Boat. I think that's going to be kind of a watershed moment for rowing. It's coming out at Christmas time this year, and I think it's one of those things that will make it clear that rowing is genuinely accessible to everybody.
Great. So with the product-led strategy, and you mentioned some, a challenge with that is people are actually pleasantly surprised by the experience, and it's more than they expected, which is great. I guess what are some other lessons learned from that approach so far?
Yeah, we had we lived through this wild pandemic up and down, and it was in 2019, we had this really great idea. We were going to build a rowing machine that provided an immersive experience, and we started to sell that rowing machine, and then the pandemic happened. So there was this moment when we all of a sudden went from a beginning startup to we're a mass market company, and we raised a lot of money, $300 million. And through the pandemic, we had this extraordinary growth because it was a confluence of factors. We had the thing that people really needed to feel better through this extremely stressful period. And the really interesting lesson has come post-pandemic because the idea is still good. The foundation for the company didn't change from 2019 to 2023, but the influence of the pandemic on people's thinking has changed a lot. And the other piece that's changed is the access to capital. And so through the pandemic, we could take this mass market approach where we were just really blanketing the marketplace with a lot of ads that were, really performance oriented and had a pretty good CAC, not terrible. Certainly relative to the lifetime value of our members, they were very reasonable, but that has changed a lot. So we've really had to go back to the drawing board and think about a new approach to reach customers. And the shift has been in personalization, and really dialing in to the specific customers that we know are interested in this exercise now. And it's a very different exercise, and you can see it in the change in our leadership. So our CMO Gretchen Seig-Fleming through the pandemic was from L'Oreal, which is big giant marketing budget and big mass market campaigns, and now we're really focused in on 1P data and earning people's trust even before they come into our ecosystem. So it's been a wild ride and really exciting to have to change that strategy with our company.
Can you give us some examples of what that personalization has looked like or enabled you to do?
Yeah, it's not rocket science. I think So an L Catterton backed company, and they also backed Oddity, which is a makeup brand that does, I think, kind of world class personalization in terms of earning customers' trust before they have purchased. And for us, that means, making sure that we have a value proposition out there that encourages people to give us their email or their telephone number so that we can reach out to them and share some really useful information with them. And it's a process. The marketplace is changing so fast, but I think, the seeds of performance marketing being a complete disaster were sowed by Apple, and it's really forced people to be much more innovative as they want to scale and grow. And trees don't grow to the sky. And if you're going to do a mass market product, you really have to find an engine that is not contingent on increasing your performance marketing spend. So how do you do that? You have to have a value proposition for future customers that makes them want to be a part of your brand before they've bought anything, and so it's building that engine. And we have amazing content around workouts and information about whole health and fitness, and it's building that engine so that we can build those lists. And then we're a highly seasonal product, so through the year we build those relationships and build that really substantial list. And it's not just about building a big list and then hitting everybody with an email. That's a disaster. What you have to do is deliver value. And it's building that engine. And I would say that we're still in the early days of building that system, but it's incredibly effective, both from a cost perspective and it's brand accretive. Like over the long term, we want to be the most trusted whole health brand in the world. And this contributes substantially to that effort. So it's, from my perspective, I love it, and it gets us out of the evil clutches of Google and Meta to some degree. But you still have to put some money behind those those quizzes and making sure that you've got enough people who are seeing the value prop out there. But it's a combination of organic and paid that leads people to trust the brand even before they've made a purchase. It's highly considered. You've got to dedicate space in your home. It's $40 or $50 a month. It's something that takes people a long time to decide about. So it's building those relationships in advance. And then when the time comes, whether it's holiday or New Year, New You, and people really are looking for that purchase, then you have a chance to harvest at a really, really efficient rate. So it's a radically different approach from building this massive top of funnel awareness and measuring your brand awareness in the marketplace and what's unaided and what's aided, and then trying to figure out how that's all going to convert. It's really much, much more specific, and to my mind anyway, much more valuable over the long run.
Yeah. Wow. Super interesting. And so you also sell Hydrow on Amazon.
Yep.
And at one point, I've been in the Amazon space for 8 years. And for the longest time, that was like such a taboo for D2C brands, like selling through another, channel. But you have had a different approach there. And I'm curious what place marketplaces like Amazon have for Hydrow, maybe in the past and now and going into the future.
Yeah, we had a launch partner in Best Buy because they wanted to get into this space, and that was a great partner to launch with because it gave us some credibility as a brand new company in 2019. And also for our investors, it gave everybody a proof point. We outsold treadmills and bikes at Best Buy in our first BFCM period. So that was really exciting. Amazon, such a our first marketing team members were like, if you want to go to Amazon, I quit. Literally, like those were actual words. Just people like, there's no way. We've had experience with Amazon, and the customer experience with them is so miserable. The return system is so miserable, especially with a subscription product. They'll take a return and they'll send the returns out that you have no control. And we sampled it, and we had kind of a bad experience the first time. And then the second time that we went in, they've honestly, like, I don't want to say Amazon's like a good company, but they have improved. They're better than they were. Their shipping practices and the way that they handle their customers and returns give us a kind of visibility and comfort that really, allow us to deliver a great experience. The other really big change for us, we had one product in the market. We call it the OG. It's the original Hydrow rower, and it's a premium product, super luxury, best rower in the world. And then our second, and it comes in a box that's really quite large for shipping. It costs us a couple $100 to ship to customers. And then our second product was really designed to be shipped overnight via FedEx. And that locks in exactly with Prime.
Yeah.
So it's really the Hydrow Wave is it's light, small. It's still a really great experience, but it's easy to move around. Comes in 6 pieces. You can put it together. It's definitely easier than an IKEA bed to put together. And it is perfect for Amazon, honestly. So it qualifies for Prime shipping, and that was the big motivator. But it's been good to get to know them over the past year. It's a primary discovery engine for most consumers, especially our consumers. If you did a Venn diagram, I think it's at 99.9% of our members are also Prime members, and when they go shopping for anything, they check Amazon first, and it's just crucial to be a part of that conversation, and you can't afford to be out of there at this point, in our opinion.
Really good take. Are you selling to Amazon as a wholesale vendor or on the marketplace?
We've done both, and we're a wholesale vendor to Amazon now. We like that better. The incentives are aligned more closely, and we have a couple of people on the Amazon team who are dedicated to our product, and they did a great job this past Prime Day. We were a big part of the conversation, and our sales were up substantially from the July Prime Day, which we were delighted about. So
Great. And I love this example of having, an assortment that suits the channel as well. So you mentioned the OG, is not really suitable to be sold on Amazon, but the Wave, is it?
yeah, the Wave is our newer, smaller product that comes in multiple colors, so you can coordinate with your home color scheme. And
And
it makes me so happy. Yeah.
was that was that developed like just that was a natural next gen product, or was that really developed with the idea of marketplaces in mind?
So honestly, it was designed to fit in homes worldwide. So Americans have room for the OG in their home. And if you go to Europe or Asia, the homes are a lot smaller. And we experienced this firsthand. We were looking at sales. We were available in the UK as well, and people were not buying Hydrow OGs in London. And we did some customer research, and it was clear that people just couldn't get them into their houses. If you have stairs with a turn in them, the OG just doesn't fit. It's why they don't sell king size beds. It's the same exact problem. And so that opportunity worldwide, we realized we had to solve. And so we focused a lot on making a product that could fit basically, like if you have a space beside your bed to make your bed, the Wave fits exactly there. And it comes in pieces, so you can take it apart and move it around by yourself and take it into very narrow corridors, and et cetera, et cetera. And we can ship worldwide at a very low cost. So our shipping cost went down by about 80% with the Wave. So it was a very, at the time, it was more prescient. We didn't realize how crucial it would be to make a product that was easier to ship and move around, but it was to fit that worldwide market. That was the initial driver, and then drive down our shipping costs as well.
So, Bruce, last question from you. I'd really appreciate your time, and it's been great learning about your journey and how your thinking has evolved really with Hydrow and the marketing approach there. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with today?
I like to make jokes about bicycles. Please don't spend your exercise minutes on a bike. Like, spend it on a rowing machine. But no, overall, I think this moment in time is pretty special. There is a transformation happening when people are starting to recognize the value of whole health in a way that we used to rely on fads to get fit, and it was to look great. And now we're really thinking about feeling great for your life and how that can impact people. And that's why we started Hydrow. It was to help people feel better so they could, feel better about themselves, trust their family and their coworkers more, because you do have that bond, and then ultimately make the world a better place. And that's still what we're aiming at, and very, very excited about the journey we're on.
Thank you, Bruce.